I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of videos, including this one guy who speaks about his Christian values. I want to remind you that Elon Musk himself is a Christian, and I'm opposed, and so were the Nazis, by the way. And I'm going to share again the Constantine Creed, because that's not of the Torah. I explained this before. The Constantine Creed, what makes a Christian, and you have to give your devotion to the Son Invictus, who happens to be Lucifer. So these are your Christians. Christianity is not of Yahuwah. So these people, they came into our lands and took our possession of our lands and enslaved our people, are Christian. They're Luciferian. And they talk about us sacrificing our children. They took our children, and our children went missing. They went into these boarding schools run by the Catholics and Christians' homes, and our children never came home. Most of them did not come back home because they put them in altars and sacrificed them. Then, and they still do today, because our government is Luciferian. Period. It is.
Followers of Yahusha the Messiah, Christians, we're about to find out. This is what's known as the Constantine Creed. It was an oath or a creed that you had to take in order to become what is called a Christian in 325 CE. This is shocking when I first read this. He renounced all customs, rites, legalism, unleavened bread, sacrifices of lambs of the Hebrews, and all the other feasts of the Hebrews. Sacrifices, prayers, aspirations, purifications, sanctifications, propositions, fasts, new moons, Sabbaths, superstitions, hymns, chants, observances, synagogues, absolutely everything Yahudi or Jewish. Every law, every rite, every custom, right, they are told to deny, right? This is an oath that they have to take. They have to deny all the original faith. Look what it says here. Furthermore, any follower of the Jewish Messiah, Yahusha HaMashiach. Furthermore, any follower of the Jewish Messiah, Yahusha HaMashiach, who wish to join this holy community is compelled to adopt a different set of rules and customs. Wow, so to become a Christian, they literally had to renounce Yahusha, the Jewish Messiah. Or in other words, Yahudim Messiah. That's the true Hebrew word for Jew. And look what it says here. They accept all customs, rites, legalisms, feasts of the Romans, sacrifices, prayers, purifications with water, sanctifications, propitiations, feasts, and the new Sabbath, which is, in quote, so die, day of the sun, Sunday. So there's proof right there that they changed the Sabbath. All new chants and observances, foods and drinks of the Romans, that would be pig. Look what it says. He absolutely accepts everything Roman, every new law, rite, and custom of Rome and the new Roman religion, which is Christianity. And look what it says. Christians must not Judaize by resting on the Sabbath. To be a Christian, you were literally not allowed to rest on the seventh day, the Sabbath day, but must work on that day, rather honoring the quote-unquote Lord's Day. Wow. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comments. Don't forget to like and follow. I'll see you guys in the next video.
So our people, both the northern and the southern kingdom, broke covenant, and we went into captivity, and we lost our lands. And there is a couple of examples in the scriptures of a couple of crooked kings of Yasharel that did do this. But this is not common for our people to do this. And Yah took care of those evil kings. So these people still do this today. So when we broke covenant, Yah gave us over to the bad shepherd, what happens to be the Pope. That's why he has a shepherd staff. So he runs the District of Columbia along with the British monarch, the tribe of Dan. So they run everything, which is the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the banking families. So they have possessions of all our lands, and they enslaved humanity. That's what it is. And 2012, which is 2020, is the apocalypse, which means the unveiling. The spirit of truth is back along with us, and it's revealing the truth to us. So the lands go back to the red nations, and they don't want us to have our lands back, because that's how they have us enslaved all this time. So now we went from being savages, right? Because they were paying the people back then to scalp our people and get paid for every scalp that they brought from a woman, child, and man. Now they paid ICE to get our people as well and put them in these plantation slave camps. And then even shipping them throughout the world as far as Africa. So they're doing again what they did when they first came here. And people are sitting back and okay with this. But I have news for you. This system is to enslave humanity. Because once they get rid of the owners of these lands, which are the red nations, then they're going to go after everybody else and enslave everybody else in the AIB system. And if you're against the government and you speak out, you're going to be in these plantations as well. And they will work you to death.
This was first created by the Catholic Church. This is not what I was referring to, but this is correct. What I was referring to was around the 1100s during Alexios III's reign, the Catholic Church implemented something that was blood purity. Anyone who was Anglo-Christian was pure blood. Literally everyone else was impure and they were worthy of death. That was the Crusades. But the document of discovery of 1493, this was the Catholic decree that said any Christian that looked like me had the rightful claim of any and all land and waterways in the world. It basically says that all indigenous people are not human. And this is still in effect today. So the Catholic Church believes that if you are black or brown, you are not human. The Catholic Church believes that all land and water belongs to the Anglo-Christian man. And yet, how many of us allies and accomplices are still Christians? Learn up.
These priests burned for 30 days all the Mayan books, so there was none left. And his reason was, it's either the word of God, and we've already got that, so we'll destroy it. And if it isn't, it's the work of the devil. So they destroyed the whole Mayan culture, literature, which was very good and very aware. And there was about 3 books left, which sort of say, got up and went to work. And there's not enough words for them to work out what the language was. What's going to happen?
You're so frustrated at what was done to the Indians in the past that you feel like you should do something for their descendants now, who are still getting it.
Well, I know, they're illiterate and not educated, not looked after. I mean, they're like, I don't know if they're having it worse than black people here, but it's pretty rough for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very bad, and I think it's good that people have a sense of conscience about it and are doing something about it.
Well, they made so much money out of the Indians. At first they took the land, and then they made movies about them taking the land, It's a bit mean, What's happening with the Indians? I mean, what are they doing for them, Don't they legally really own the land?
Not enough. Interestingly enough, some conservative politicians seem to be more concerned for the Indians than some liberal politicians.
Maybe they've realized how many there are on the whole American continent, including the South.
How many
people
votes
think there's only a few Indians left. There's millions of them in the whole continent of America, which includes South America. And one day they're going to be asking for their rights. I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't standing next to the black people too. Yeah. So it's either give now or die later, I reckon.
An alien church in California. If you believe in Jesus, you believe in aliens. But aliens are in the Bible. Look at that shit right there. What are they trying to tell us, dog? What are they trying to tell us with this church? You got any bright ideas? You got any bright motherfucking ideas, dog? Would you go to this church, dog? Would you go to the alien church? Huh? I want to know what's your thoughts on this, because I got a book, like I always talk about. A book that you ain't gonna be able to find that motherfucker no more. Because I try to find it for other people, and I can't, and they be mad at me about it. It ain't my fault I got that motherfucker, you don't. I wonder what made them even decide to come with a church like that. And in California, of all places, dog. Think about that shit. An alien church. I wonder if the motherfuckers that go there are aliens. Make you think, don't it? Make you think. Here's my book right here. Aliens Over America. You see that alien holding the mask look like Jesus Christ with that spaceship looking like a motherfucking cross? I told y'all, y'all best start getting y'all books. Because you can't find this motherfucking book no more. They're getting rid of all the books, dog. All the books. They getting rid of them. And you need to get your motherfucking books because they hiding information. Peace.
Christian values. And one of the points I made is that when the settlers came to the New World, they found a very widespread child sacrifice.
Hey, colonizer. I see that some of your Christian values are based on racist lies. I guess it's easier to justify religious imperialism and colonization when you believe the comforting lie that your ancestors weren't the real savages. Native Americans did not sacrifice children. In fact, indigenous children were subjected to physical, verbal, and sexual abuse in boarding schools. Between 1871 and 1969, the U.S. government forcibly removed and placed more than 60,000 Native children, some as young as 4 years old, in 471 boarding schools, half of which were operated by the church. A recent investigation found that more than 3,000 Native children died in these schools.
If you go to historical archaeological sites where there were brothels, if you go back to ancient brothels and you dig up the bones of the women who were working in these places, you will very often find a lot of children who were buried with them.
There is no archaeological evidence to suggest that there were brothels in ancient indigenous societies in what is now known as North America. After European contact, the widespread practice of forced and coerced sexual exploitation became a brutal reality for indigenous people, and it continues today. The ongoing epidemic of missing and murdered indigenous women reflects this legacy. Indigenous women are 10 times more likely to be murdered than any other demographic in the United States, with 96% of the perpetrators being non-native. The only graves where you'll find indigenous women with their babies and children are the ones your ancestors put them in.
And the answer is that whenever a society decides to discard innocent babies, they also don't treat their women very well. And whenever a society mistreats its women, it is very often the babies who come right after that. There is a reason why Christian civilization ended the practice of child sacrifice all over the world, and it's one of the great accomplishments of Christian civilization.
The large majority of indigenous tribal societies were matriarchal. Women held significant amounts of authority over land, governance, and community life. These structures embodied equality and balance long before the Western notion of feminism came to Turtle Island. Colonization disrupted this by imposing patriarchal and capitalist frameworks, erasing indigenous women's leadership and redefining power through domination. It's always the ones who claim to civilize others in the name of God, who taught the world what gender depression looks like. Stop spreading anti-indigenous rhetoric to uphold your insecure sense of superiority. Instead, look at the fact that 98% of Republicans in Congress identify as Christian, and yet they're willing to let 16,350,000 children go hungry. So don't talk to us about sacrificing children. Instead, talk to the Republicans who quote scripture and vote to not feed the poor.
Fighters are the Rothschilds and the Jesuits, and they have actually been intermarrying for centuries. We have what we call secular Jesuits, and the Rothschilds and the Jesuits are one. They're above the white pope. The black Jesuit pope is above the white pope, who's a Franciscan. And the Rothschilds are above the Queen of England, and they're above the City of London and Wall Street. And we have legalized massive crimes by these banks, to include manipulating foreign exchange and interest rates. When Goldman Sachs wants to make a lot of money, they start a war. And that drives up the price of oil and does other things, okay? So I cannot overstate the degree of evil that exists in the banking system as it responds to the Rothschilds and the Black Pope, the Jesuits. Then the banks essentially fund two-party tyrannies in each country. One bird, two wings, same crap, okay? And by the way, the FBI was founded by a pedophile. J. Edgar Hoover used to take small children as gifts from the mafia. Okay, pedophilia is very big in all this.
First glance, you might think this footage came straight out of Nazi Germany. Looks like one of Hitler's rallies, right? But nah, this ain't Germany. This is fucking New York City, 1939, Madison Square Garden. Over 20,000 people packed the garden to throw up Nazi salutes and cheer for a white Christian America. Yeah, in the heart of Manhattan. This wasn't a local meeting in some backwoods basement. This was the biggest arena in the country, and it was filled with American Nazis. They called themselves the German-American Bund. Think of it like Hitler's street team in the US. And these dudes were deep. organizing rallies, pushing Nazi propaganda, rocking swastikas with the American flag like it was a fashion statement. And yo, they didn't stop with adults either. They had Nazi summer camps for kids.
Oh, I just got told that people don't know about McDonald's. Okay, you know the adrenochrome production? Okay, let's go back a couple of steps. Adrenochrome is adrenalized blood. It is developed when an individual is in a deep state of terror. The adrenaline pumps through the blood, and then they drain that blood from the person, and that's a drug. It's a drug of choice. It is produced on an industrial scale. Walmart uses its supply chain to transport around the world. It's transported in 44-gallon drums, say out of Holland. Now, how many babies do you have to kill and torture to get a 44-gallon drum? So what do you do with the bodies after that? Well, I just put them into the McDonald's burgers. In US. This is US. I don't know about Oz, but definitely the US. When I say they hate you,
the first species on the face of this earth to be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do, the babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight. The first species on the face of this earth, the first species on the face of this earth to be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do, the babies we eat, the food we eat.
Mr. Speaker, I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools. The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. Two primary objectives of the residential school system were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their home, families, traditions, and cultures, and to assimilate them into the dominant culture. These objectives were based on the assumption that Aboriginal cultures and spiritual beliefs were inferior and unequal. Indeed, some sought, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child.
When I hear people that firmly believe that nothing happened in these schools, well, I can tell them my story. And I can tell them this is what happened.
As a Navajo as we find him in the desert. Few of these boys and girls have ever seen a white man. Yet, through the agencies of the government, they are being rapidly brought from their state of comparative savagery and barbarism to one of civilization.
The Indian adoption
Adoption Project began in 1958 as a government effort to remove Native children from their families and place them in white homes.
For decades, Indian parents and their children have been at the mercy of abusive action of local, state, federal, and private agency officials.
Between 25 and 35% of all American Indian children are removed from their families.
Welfare agencies seem to have operated on the premise that most Indian children would really be better off growing up non-Indian. It has been called by some cultural genocide.
How much they try to take the Indianness out of us. We're always there. We will always be here, no matter what.